Hi, friends. I am excited to talk to you tonight about information security in education and the laws that we have to protect individuals with neurodiversity or challenges that we've talked about for this whole semester. So I wanted to point out that there is a Children's Internet Protection Act and a Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, as well as we have our HIPAA, the Health Information Portability Accountability Act, and that all of those are going to relate to your working in a school. And we want to talk about what those are. So first, some key terms for you is that to understand that records, files, documents, they all exist. And when you have a record, then that record is will apply to the law. So the difference would be perhaps if I take a note on a piece of paper with a pen and it's intended for my own view and nobody else's view, and I keep it with myself and it's not with somebody else's name on it, then that is not a record. However, if I make any official piece of paper or have something that I share with anybody else, including my email would be considered that as well, then that is considered a record. So when you're looking at laws and saying, what records you can and cannot share, you want to point that out and what that means. Confidentiality refers to the fact that you as a person in the education system is not allowed to disclose any information or transmit it to somebody that is unauthorized. And each law will say which people are authorized and which people are unauthorized. Privacy is a personal right, and we all have a right to privacy related to our freedom. So for one of the, when a child, i.e. a person under the age of 18 years old, is a child and under the care of their parent, of whoever their official legal caregiver is, then we have some HIPAA rules that are different, but require they become an authorized person to disclose information to. And that person's authorized. Once you have any child who's in college, once they turn 18 years old, doesn't matter whether you're paying for their college or not, unless you click a box and say that you are, that child, that over 18-year-old agrees, that young adult agrees that you are allowed to have information transmitted to you, then you no longer have that right. That child becomes an adult, and that adult has the right to privacy. Okay. Security refers to things that we will do to make sure that data isn't accidentally in the wrong hands. So my computer is password protected. I don't just walk around with notes here and there that somebody could read. We have, records are kept in locked drawers or locked files. If it's a paper copy, the paper copies and such are destroyed in a certain way. So our electronic files are destroyed to maintain the security of, security. Disclosure is, it can be electronic, it can be writing, it can be oral, me telling you something. Any part of a record about any means of that person or the identity, say identity meaning a company or something of that side. So if you disclose, then it says I'm giving you access. You have to ask for disclosure permissions. And if you have disclosure permission, then you are able to reveal, release, transmit, transfer, disseminate information communication about these different things. If I don't have permission to disclose as a teacher in a school district, then I may not disclose to any unauthorized people. Protection principle really just means that it is our duty to really protect the confidentiality of all personal information from a person. So hopefully that helps explain things a little bit for you. Make sure I'm... Oh, there we go. Good. So I have a few more minutes to talk about some things. So again, we talked about the Children's Internet Protection Act, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and then finally we have HIPAA, the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. So those are the four. I just want you to know that they exist, and they exist to protect the rights of individuals. And they've been around for different amount of years in terms of when they have been set up to protect different people. So the protection measured must specifically block access to content or pictures that are deemed obscene, child pornography, or harmful to minors. So it's saying we're required to have the schools and libraries that are funded are required to protect children from being able to access these things. So pretty much that's what the act is saying. So when your child accesses a computer at school, it's required to have those protections on it. Children's Online Privacy Protection Act says that personal information about children under the age of 18 by websites accessed by children through the internet must be controlled, and it has to be regulated so that so that privacy isn't broken. So there has to be that parental permission for that. Just like you have to have a parental permission to go on a field trip or to drive in someone's car on a field trip, so too do they need a parental permission to have their information on that school that can be accessed through the school. There's exceptions to the policies, so you can read this and see what that is. The biggest thing is that all new requests for personal information require assigned consent. That way that parents have the ability to choose to give consent or take consent away for that information to be out there and collected. Okay. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So this law protects the privacy of those records. So remember, we talked about what records were. Records are anything that we're keeping in a file that multiple people get to see. I could have my database of address and phone number. That's a record. A school's your official transcript or transcript, those are records. Your IEP is going to be a record as well. So any of those things are going to be records. And it's saying that the students' educational records are required to be maintained at the school. They need to be safely stored, and they need to be kept confidential and only presented to individuals who are authorized or that have given or that there has been disclosure permitted for that. So the bottom line of all of these, this gives you a little example of what it is. So directory information, name, address, telephone number, date of birth, honor awards, date of attendance, all of those are cannot be disclosed without the parent, without the consent of the parent. Okay. That means I can't walk up to a school and say, hey, how's Johnny doing in class? Oh, Johnny's a great student. He's getting all A's. That is verbal. That is verbally disclosing information to someone who is unauthorized to have that information. So you were in a classroom and another parent walks up to you, you're an instructional assistant, and one parent from the school walks up to you and says, oh, you're Johnny's aide. How's Johnny doing today? You may not give information to that person regarding name, address, birthplace, honors, awards, school, how they're doing in school, what's happening. That is private information that you have not been allowed, that you may not disclose. You also may not disclose what challenge, neurodiversity, that child has. It's not your place to say. So maybe that adult already knows, maybe the parent told them, or the child, who knows, but it is not your place as an instructional assistant to give that information away. And in fact, it would be cause to lose a job and also lawsuit for the school district that you work for. So finally, Health Insurance Portable Accountability Act is really kind of very similar to FERPA. But it covers the medical pieces. So that student medical records are part of the student's educational records, and a school is not required to follow the guidelines identified under FERPA laws related to. They can give a few more records information and share them a little bit more freely than, say, your doctor at the hospital. So you always sign, you go get your doctor and they sign something for you. You say, I'll let you tell this doctor and this doctor about this condition that I have. You can share that information. And through HIPAA, they got to ask me, and I have to disclose, I have to say, like, yes, you can share this information with these other doctors, blah, blah, blah. What in the school system, because we have these, we're just about to learn about education plans, because we have these individualized education plans, there may be multiple people related to the school that have access to a student's educational records that will also then have access to their medical records, so that they have an opportunity to understand everything that is happening with that child. Now, there are some, you got to follow the rules, we've got to maintain the records, but particularly for, when we're dealing with children with that education plan, individualized education plan, you're going to have access to their medical records as well as, and those are all still confidential. Typically everywhere else, there's different rules. So it's just really important for you to be thinking about protecting a student, protecting a student's privacy, protecting that family, making sure that you know who you are permitted to talk to about certain things and what things you're permitted to talk to them about. That is going to be essential. So thank you so much for listening to what I had to say. And I look forward for you to please watch these 2 videos and enjoy your evening. Good night.